Everyone in the room and in Zoom. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we gather today on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin throughout the San Juan Islands and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors, the Lummi Nation and the Nooksack tribe, for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Okay, thanks everyone for being here. For folks who don't know me, my name's Kate Darby. I'm a faculty member in environmental studies. This quarter in the speaker series, we've been focusing on cross-disciplinary conversations, and I'm really excited today to have a panel of recent-ish alumni from our college to talk about their experiences out in the real world. Before we dive into that, I just want to give a little plug for next week's panel, which will focus on questions around gender, sex, and vulnerability with professors Ruth Sofield, Tammy Lanninga, and Rebecca Pachi-Green. It should be a great conversation, so I hope you will join us for that. So I'm excited to have these folks here. I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves and tell us their name, what program you all graduated from, what year, and if you can just kind of give us the quick version of what you've done since graduation. That would be lovely. And Avery, you're always going to be first because you're next to me.
Amazing. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Avery Garritano. I graduated from Western in spring of 2021 from the environmental policy major, which I just learned no longer exists. It's a little different now. And from there, I actually, on Kathy Patrick's mailing list, saw an internship for the Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association. And so I took that internship in fall 2021 and ended up getting experience in volunteer program management, teaching volunteers how to plant and remove invasive species across Whatcom County. I also helped out with field trips for fourth graders. And from that position, I actually took a position with the city of Bellingham and their volunteer program. And I was with them for about a year and a half, continuing to do volunteer management, planting in parks and that kind of thing. And then I took a full-time position that I'm currently in with the Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association as their Stewardship Program Coordinator. And I have been there since 2023, so I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
I'm nervous about this microphone. Hi, I'm Kenna. I use she, her pronouns. I got my master's here in environmental studies. I did my undergraduate degree in environmental science at the University of Denver. I finished my master's degree in 2024 and I swore on my life that the two things that mattered most to me when I got a job after graduation is that I really wanted to work for a woman and I was not going to work in government. My boss is a 62-year-old man and I work for a state agency for the state of Washington. I work for the Puget Sound Partnership, which is tasked with ecosystem recovery of the Puget Sound region, which is really the southern half of the Salish Sea. So that includes Bellingham Bay. I manage a program of scientific indicators, so that's both ecosystem conditions and indicators of human well-being in the population that we use to communicate largely with our governor and with the EPA about what scientific funding is needed and cultural well-being funding is needed. I've been there for about 2 years, and I'm so happy to be here.
Hello, I'm Martine. I graduated from Western in 2023 with a degree in environmental science. I also got an email from Kathy Patrick about an internship for waste management. I did recycling outreach over the summer after I graduated, and then I started working at a lab. Worked there for about 2 months. It wasn't really for me. And then I got into the consulting industry, which is where I work now. I work a lot for the Department of Ecology on their cleanup sites. I manage a lot of contaminated soil and groundwater, as well as industrial stormwater permits.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julian, he, him pronouns, and I graduated from Western. I was trying to remember, I think it was 2024. Yeah, and I graduated from the urban planning program. So if there's any planning students here, shout out you guys. And yeah, right after graduation, I had a temporary position at the city of Bellingham in their planning department. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is like what I studied. This is like where I need to be. And it turned out, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't really the best space for me. It was really interesting being in like
Yes, we don't always have to go in the same order. So thank you all for that. And just another plug about Vamos is there are at least 3 College of the Environment alumni there, right? At least 3, maybe more. Yeah. Okay, so we're infusing all of these organizations in town with our alumni, which is great. I was hoping to start, how many, can we just see a raise of hands in the room? Like how many people are graduating in the next year? Ooh, a lot. A lot. So I was thinking it might be interesting for you all to talk a little bit about what that transition felt like from graduation to, it wasn't a clear path for any of you, I don't think, but like what was most challenging or what lessons did you learn during that transition time that might be helpful to some of the folks in the room? And we can start with whoever would like to start first.
I'll start. Okay, so when I graduated from college, I was very stressed, but I applied to probably 1,000 jobs. And after my internship ended, I got my wisdom teeth removed, and my mom was like, "You need to get a job." And I was like, "Well, my face is all swollen. I can't go to any interviews." So I just applied to so many to kind of prove to my mom that I was doing something. And I had a couple of interviews, and yeah, so I got a job at a lab, which I said, and it wasn't really for me, but it gave me experience on my resume, which really helped me land further interviews after that, which is how I got here. Once I got to my job, I had a really hard time because I just felt like it was really hard, and there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I to be honest felt really stupid because everybody else was really smart and knew what they were doing. But you kind of grow into it with time, and then you feel a lot better. So, and now I love my job.
Hi. So I graduated, my degree was in environmental policy. I was full force, I'm gonna go to law school. And during my senior year, I took the LSAT and I overloaded my schedule. I had full credit loads. I was doing 18 credits. I was an RA. I was getting a paper published. I was taking the LSAT. I really burnt myself out. And so when I graduated over a slideshow presentation, because it was COVID, I decided that I needed to take just kind of a breather, and I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods and just kind of took some time to just experience a job outside of the school environment. And luckily I didn't have to apply to 1,000 jobs. I did apply for the NC internship, and I got it in that fall. When I was looking into other possible paths, deciding maybe I don't want to go to law school, maybe I'll take what I've learned and just apply it to something else and just get some environmental experience. And I really fell in love with community engagement and getting to do hands-on restoration work, local, getting to see the impact. And so that really changed the trajectory of what I wanted to do as a job. I think that the skills from Western in research and writing and public speaking all really helped me in this role. And then from there, I pursued more so volunteer-based organizations that focus on habitat restoration. So my advice is try things out. Internships are great to get some more experience.
Sad. Like sporting goods vibe. Obviously, my most recent graduation was a master's degree, but I felt the same way leaving my master's degree as I left my undergraduate degree many years prior. And that was at first the expectation that there was going to be an obvious great job for me. Like I had a degree at this point, I had an advanced science degree. I'm a geospatial analyst. Like I do science, I have advanced degrees. There's going to be an obvious job. And that was not the case in either circumstances in several different economic contexts. And the best advice that I got as I was finishing up my master's degree and reaching out to a bunch of people that had jobs that I thought were cool, not because I wanted their job, but because I wanted to learn how they got their job, was that linear doesn't exist, right? Like there's no, you graduate your degree, you get that job leads to this job. The best advice I got was that like, to get a great job that you really appreciate in the long term for whatever your values are, is to have a quilt of experience and skills. Like a degree is great. A degree is often because of preferences or requirements in a job application is a baseline. And the thing that gets a great job and lets you be good at your job and lets you appreciate your job is having a myriad of skills and a myriad of interests and applying those to a myriad of circumstances and types of positions. I am very grateful for my degree. And whenever I'm coaching a new person or hiring new people, like the degree is the baseline. Either it doesn't matter because it's not required, and the other people that are applying that don't have a degree can speak eloquently to why they don't need a degree to do the job well, or the degree is required and everyone that you're applying against has that degree. The best advice that like you can bring with you is that like you have value in what you bring. You speak another language. You are a graphic designer on top of being a scientist. You X, Y, and Z, right? Like to have applicable skills that add to the color and like the meat of your degree is what makes a really good candidate. And it's what makes jobs interesting. It's like what makes you enjoy what you're doing. It's not academia forever. It can't be. I guess it can be if you really want it to be. You probably don't want it to be. It's not academia forever. And that's a great thing. And like the thing that makes work interesting is being a whole person with a lot of skills and a lot of open-mindedness to applying those skills in different ways. Done.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow that. That was beautifully said. I think the main thing for me is just like I studied urban planning and now I'm not really using that degree to an extent. And I think what felt really tough for me graduating was feeling like I didn't have alternatives. Like I was like on this path and I had like chosen this degree that was very specific and I had very clear reasons why I had chosen that degree. And ultimately ended up being that there's many different ways in which I could attain why I wanted that degree, which is just to like have a real impact, a positive impact in my community. And there's many different ways to get there. And I think for a while when I graduated, I felt like I didn't have alternatives. And I felt like I had followed this like clear path with like internships and like, I will say like getting involved in like local projects in town I'm really big on like learning through practice. And that I had kind of followed that little path, I had worked with Sustainable Connections and they're like affordable housing. I forget like what it's the Whatcom Affordable Housing Association, something like that. Anyways, I had like kind of gone through like the little steps of like meeting the people that I needed to meet to then have like the experience on my resume to like work at the city. And ultimately, like it was kind of rough, like realizing that I didn't want that, or I thought that I wanted that. And that's like a lifelong thing, I think, just that changes all the time, like what you want. And I think one of the most important things that like kind of freed me was like understanding that having alternatives is a really freeing thing. Because if you feel like you're just like in this box, then that can, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you feel stagnated, that's one of the worst, I think, feelings, at least in my experience as a human being. So, yeah, I think never shoot down alternatives or like just be creative with how you can use your experience and your degree in different ways. So, I'm gonna
We do. We need a bullet train for the microphone. I'm going to take audience questions in just a minute, but I wanted to follow up on this theme. I love this idea of like the patchwork of who you are. And I often tell advisees when they come to my office to go look at where all the faculty in the college got their bachelor's degree and what we got it in. Have any of you done this? We're all over the place. And so I think this college really like exemplifies that patchwork so beautifully. And so just thinking about that and thinking, Julian, about your like, okay, so I'm not an urban planner, but how am I using those skills? I'm wondering if you could reflect a little bit about how some of the experiences in the College of the Environment have like given you the kinds of skills or habits of mind or experiences that are useful or helpful in navigating the world in which you work today. If you have any specific examples or general observations.
Oh, this is directed at me. Okay. Um, hmm. I guess like going along with the theme of like practical skills. I think something that I learned specifically from one of the faculty at the UPP program, Nabil, was that aspect of like practice, like learning through practice, and just like and generally being really practical. And there's that acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid, and I feel like that is almost like an aha moment that I've had in the workplace where how important it is to be able to say things in a direct, clear manner. And I have this tendency of like kind of going in circles. And that was something that I think Nabil checked at the time. And is just kind of like this really simple practical skill that really like comes really useful into if I've had the opportunity to like write grants for Vamos, and that's like the practice of like saying something and getting to the point and making those clear logical connections is really useful for something like that. Or even like when we're partnering with an institution or in town that's wanting to work with us, being able to like communicate clearly with them and get to an understanding, a shared understanding effectively is a really like challenging thing sometimes. And so, yeah, I guess that's what comes to mind. I hope that that was useful.
Easy to piggyback off. That's so great. Piggybacking off of that, Julian just gave several examples of like hard and soft skills that we use in the workplace and we use in academia. And I find that in academia, when we're in school and when we're being graded on something, there's a lot of things that our professors ask us to do and require us to do that the second that you're not in school, no one is making you do anymore. Right? Like no one makes you continue to give presentations in person and speak publicly. No one makes you write anything for the most part. Maybe your boss, maybe. And one of the best aspects of neuroplasticity that we can carry with us from a degree, from a school context, is the discipline to continue to try new skills and be bad at new skills and learn them on our own accord. Right? Like if we all tapped out right here on the skills that our professors required us to practice, like beyond content, the skills, the public speaking, the interpersonal communication, et cetera, whatever it is, we would get really crusty really fast in our skills. And success in a job, in getting a job and having a job and appreciating your job and moving on from your job, whatever like version of success it is yours to create. And so the patchwork of skills for me required a lot of like building the muscle of learning new skills, building the muscle of public speaking by forcing myself to public speak, building the muscle of saying no or having professional boundaries by practicing having professional boundaries or researching having professional boundaries, right? So one of the greatest challenges that can happen coming out of a degree is going from the context where someone is telling you to do something and you're paying them to tell you to do something to someone paying you and assuming that you'll do something. That assumption is ours to carry forward and like our skills to develop. So yeah.
Either of you have anything to add? No pressure.
Around took my thoughts.
Also, I think another important thing to have is confidence in knowing what you're doing, and also asking questions when you aren't completely sure, but you kind of like you know it, and now it's like your time to go and do it after. Obviously, you get the appropriate training from work and stuff, but then like you have to go out and do it by yourself in the field. And yeah, you just usually like you'll check in with your boss and like, yeah, that's right. Just like go ahead and do it. And I think that was really helpful for me to realize.
You said something I absolutely had to add on, especially for all of us. From this point on, every single time that you hesitate because you don't think you're qualified enough, because you're not in the mood to do X, Y, and Z, like every single time that you hesitate, someone that is less qualified and has a little more audacity is going to fill that space. It's okay to not know every single thing and not have every single skill. Like the best skill to have is the neuroplasticity to learn new ones and to have the confidence that you know what you're doing and you will figure it out along the way. It's a skill to figure it out on the way, and you totally will.
I do have one little thing to add.
Now we're going.
People skills are really important. I think that school can teach you a lot of people skills, how to work as a team, how to work with somebody that's directly supervising you, how to receive feedback. All of these pop up in the workplace, even if you're not working like a super public facing job. I think it's really important to know how to work with a variety of people.
Great. And I think we've been dancing around this concept, but I just kind of wanted to name this thing that Martine, I think, brought up earlier, this idea of like imposter syndrome, right? To name that. And I think this idea of just like knowing that everyone kind of feels that way, right? I think most people feel that way. And so acknowledging that and moving on. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Do we have audience questions? Yeah. Yes, thanks. Okay, so this was a question about attending graduate school, and I think, Kenna, you're the only one so far. So would you like to speak to that? Master Kenna will speak to that.
I used to when I first got my master's degree, I had my partner call me Master Kenna, and then he got a master's degree, so it's less fun now. I got my master's degree. I started my master's degree in 2023 or 2. I finished in 2024. I spent several years between my undergraduate degree and my master's degree, and I'm very grateful that I did. The same skills that I built in that interim, like in the workforce, in the interim between my undergraduate degree and my master's degree, are the skills that make me very good at my job now. And I'm speaking a lot about jobs, but also like in life in general. I considered going to graduate school directly out of my undergraduate, and I'm really glad that I didn't. I chose to go to graduate school when I did because I felt like I was tapping out in my career on what the impact I was able to have based on my hard technical skills. Like I'm in the science universe, and so I felt really well flexed in my interpersonal skills and my softer skills and wanted to regain the muscle of technical skills, but I wouldn't have known that or been able to apply that well now after graduate school, having not gone into the workforce and worked on my interpersonal skills and my soft skills and my workforce skills. So I know it's very tempting, especially in the unknown of finishing an undergraduate degree, to look straight towards more education, and education happens in the university setting for sure. Education also happens in a lot of other settings, including the workforce. There's no faster way to learn than to learn on the job. So while I think graduate school is really wonderful and I'm really happy I did it, I'm really grateful I did it at the time that I did, and I did not go straight from my undergraduate to my master's degree. I also learned a lot in that interim about what I wanted to do. Like I'm still in environmental science, but I do very different work now than I did 6 years ago. And it would have been disappointing to spend the like juicy experience of graduate school on something that I ended up not really loving. It was really awesome to come to Western, which is not where I did my undergraduate, and know exactly what I wanted to do because I had real world like understanding of what that would mean in work, and then get to like hone those skills and take them and apply them into the world. So pro master's degree, anti master's degree right away. And I'm not No offense to the Alumni Association or Western Washington University, I'm not convinced that master's degrees will continue to be the most important thing. More and more organizations, more and more employers are requiring less and less degrees and looking more and more to people that have real world experience. And you'd be shortchanging yourself if you didn't dig into that real world experience too. Give yourself time to figure it out. It's not something you have to figure out right now at all.
Other questions from the audience? Yes, in the back. Thanks. Okay, the question was about asking folks to talk about how they handle imposter syndrome, especially when you are new and maybe don't know a lot of things. Does anybody want to take that?
Give yourself grace. Give yourself like positive self-affirmations. Honestly, it may sound a little bit silly, but like reminding yourself, even if it has to be verbally, like, it's okay that I don't know this right now, and there will be a time where I do know this. Have a good conversations with your supervisor. My current supervisor does, we do weekly check-ins, and I'm able to just verbally process things that I might be having difficulty with and things that I may need some advice with. And having that active channel of feedback is really helpful as well. And I think that a lot of jobs don't expect you to be perfect right away. They know that you're learning. And so putting that in your mind of like, they don't expect this from me. I shouldn't expect to be perfect right now either. And take it as a challenge of like, I can grow these skills and that it can be at my own pace. And I can rely that my supervisors will let me know if anything needs to change or if there's any big problems. That was a big conversation with my supervisor where I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And she's like, if you're doing something wrong, I'll tell you, you'll know. And that took a lot of weight off of me.
Piggybacking off of that, I struggled a lot with imposter syndrome when I started my consulting job. And it's because like I wouldn't hear any positive feedback a lot of the time. You just hear nothing. And I was like crying to my mom. I was like, I feel like I'm just like failing. And she was like, well, no feedback is good. Like you said, like it's good if you don't hear anything. Like they'll tell you if you're wrong. And like open communication with your supervisor. Like I'll tell my boss, I'm like, yeah, like I'm really anxious about like the soil sampling I did yesterday. I feel like I did it all wrong. And she'll be like, no, it's fine. And everybody kind of starts like where we are now. Like nobody goes into the job knowing exactly what you're going to be doing, exactly how to do everything. Everybody has to learn, and it's just expected. It's more expected than you think that it is.
Again, like just being practical, I feel like something that worked for me, and like, yeah, feeling imposter syndrome, especially as I feel like this is something that I've heard women in the workforce also experience, and like something that I think kind of you said, like someone with less technical skills than you might just be more like, out there and like confident and like not sure to replace you, but like I don't know. There's this. It's like a weird thing that I've heard people talk about. But I think being practical, something that helped me was being really organized, and that was something that I like struggled with as a student. For the until I graduated college, I never like wrote my homework down or like had a calendar, and like yeah, I was just going with the flow, and I still to some extent, but like I think really honing in on those skills and like being really good at like project managing myself made me gain a lot more confidence, and it was like a practical thing to just like I don't know really work on that, and it was also at the time when I learned this was through Vamos because we're non-hierarchical, so actually we don't have any supervisors. We all like we're a completely horizontally organized organization, and so I kind of had to become good at project managing myself because nobody's telling me what to do. But I think that even at that, I was placing myself in these spaces where I was the youngest person in the room or like the only person of color, and I was really feeling strongly this like sense of I'm not supposed to be here. But I think if I just baseline went into those spaces being really like organized and like understanding, I don't know, like being really prepared going into those spaces helped build that confidence. Because I think sometimes it is kind of like fake it till you make it, but like I think that's a real way to build confidence is just being really organized and prepared.
two answers. The first being that the longer that I've spent in any workplace, the more that I realize that no one knows what they're doing. My executive director included, my deputy director included, my boss included. 40 years in the industry, they don't know what they're doing either. And that's really empowering. Like, we're all learning, and it behooves us to all be adaptable in the work that we do and the way that we approach it. It's a benefit to not being perfect because the circumstances are changing. The other really practical tip that really helped me, especially was when I was in the job applications phase right out of school, where I didn't have a lot of other things on my resume beyond school, was physically either recording myself on my phone or looking myself in the mirror and talking myself through why I'm really good at what I do. Like, a job interview is just you talking about yourself. It's you selling yourself. And the more that you apply for jobs and the more you do job interviews, the better you get at selling yourself. And the more you do that in the mirror, you're just selling yourself to yourself. Like, it sounds so bad. And my boyfriend was so sick of me talking to myself in the house. But the 5 minutes of like describing to myself in the mirror why I am the best qualified for this job, whether or not I believe that in my heart, is really rerouting for the brain in a very well scientifically backed way. And as dorky as it feels, it's so effective. And I will say it again, every single time that you hesitate because you think you're not qualified, someone less qualified with more audacity will fill that space. It's fantastic to be underqualified and believe that you can do it well because you can learn to do it well.
Those were great responses. I will just add that data show us that women, non-binary folks, people of color tend to not apply for jobs that they think they're not qualified for. And that's not true of folks from other identity groups. So just keep that in mind. Like this is a phenomenon that's out there in the world. And I think Kenna's point is really well taken. And one other piece of advice as someone who's, started new things many times is like having a cohort of folks that you can work with. Even thinking about when I arrived here and my colleague Nick Stanger, who's no longer here, and Aquila Flower and Tammy Lanninga and Mark Neff and Nabil, we all got here around the same time and we had lunch together every week. And there's something about that sort of community of practice and community of newness that I think is really helpful for counteracting imposter syndrome too. I wanted to ask sort of a fun question. Can you all give us a day in the life? What's a day in the life of your job? What do you actually do? Because do you all read job descriptions and wonder, and you see like environmental analyst 1, like what does that person do all day? I wonder that. Does anyone want to give? I know there's no typical day. Okay, great.
I work from home, so I have a pretty boring day to day. I love working from home for some reasons and not for others. A very typical day for me is about 4 hours of meetings that could be emails and about 4 hours of structured deep work. Sometimes that deep work is, I do GIS, so map making. Sometimes that's making maps. Sometimes that deep work is writing a report. Sometimes that deep work is responding to an inquiry from a legislator. I really appreciate that my job is very multifaceted because sometimes that deep work is like scientific analysis, and sometimes I'm helping state legislators that don't really understand how the floods in Whatcom County impacted the South Fork Nooksack and what that's going to mean for salmon spawning this year. And I just get the like off chance opportunity to explain that to someone. Right now, a lot of my days in the life, because I work for the government, is tracking what's going on with scientific funding at the state and federal level and with implementation of human well-being and ecosystem restoration applications at the state and federal level. Not a super fun time to work for the government, but a lot of new information to learn every day. The day in the life in my job is pretty boring, and that took me a really long time to come to terms with. Some jobs are really interesting all day long and some jobs aren't. And it's a values choice of what works for you at the time that it works at. I try to be very upfront that despite having a comfortable salary and 2 degrees and like a currently stable job, my day-to-day is pretty boring.
I can go. I've been trying to figure out how to describe the day in my life. I mentioned I'm the Stewardship Coordinator for the Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association. I realized in the beginning I didn't really say what that means. Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association, for those of you not familiar, our mission is to engage the community to take action to keep wild salmon here for future generations. And we have 3 different areas that we kind of do that through. So we have our restoration team that goes, we have a WCC crew, Washington Conservation Corps, and we have full-time restoration technicians that like go out to the field and they do large-scale restoration. They're planting the Nooksack Delta, they're brush cutting, they're applying herbicide, that kind of thing. They're removing fish passage barriers. Lots of large-scale things that you can't involve volunteers. However, education programming, and they lead field trips for 4th graders. They do salmon releases. We have a nature preschool, lots of different education programming. And then we have the stewardship program, which I'm a part of. Stewardship program, we plan and facilitate volunteer restoration events. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of volunteer events that we plan and facilitate. My job is that planning and facilitation, as well as supervising our cohorts of flow interns, future leaders of Whatcom Waters. So we have a cohort every season, essentially. And so my job is like 80% office, 20% field work. Office work is mostly emails, meetings, making sure that our programs are up to date. I'm creating promotional material. I'm posting to online calendars. I got to do a really cool project of designing our Earth Day t-shirt. So some one-off projects like that, but honestly just filling in what our programs team needs, making sure that we're advertising our volunteer programs. And then every Saturday we have our community work party events. We sometimes will collaborate with partners, so like the Whatcom Land Trust, City of Bellingham, other local environmental partners. What that looks like for me is getting to work at 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m., packing for the day with my group of interns, traveling out to a site across Whatcom County. For instance, this weekend we are going all the way to Maple Falls at this beautiful land trust property on Maple Creek. Going all the way there, setting up for the event. Our events take place 9 to noon. This weekend, for instance, we're removing invasive Scotch broom. We receive volunteers. We make sure they're going to have a great time. We get free bagels from the bagelry. So if anyone's interested, you should come out. It's great. And then we will go back to NC. We'll unload, clean tools, and debrief. And so my focus a lot of the time is making sure that the event is running smoothly and that my interns have everything they need and that I'm monitoring their professional growth and helping them meet any goals that they want to meet during their internship term. I'm talking a lot because there's lots that I do. A couple other things that we do: salmon return in the fall. And so we're very busy in the fall. We do community salmon sightings where we set up outreach so folks can go and see salmon and ask us questions. I also help facilitate a citizen science program called Salmon Spotters, where community volunteers can attend a training, learn how to identify salmon, adopt a creek, and make weekly observations as to what species of salmon they're seeing, where and when. And I also help keep track of all that data and put it on this interactive map, and so we could see general trends in salmon return in the fall. And also, I help out in lots of odds and ends that are needed. I helped out on a field trip yesterday and was teaching 4th graders about macroinvertebrates. So we're very dynamic as a team and plug in where needed. So day in my life, it kind of depends.
Day in my life also depends. I'm in the field probably 3 or 4 days a week, and then in the office 1 or 2 days. Recently I've been doing a lot of soil sampling around like an underground storage tank. If it leaks like diesel or petroleum, and we have to take it all out and excavate it. So I oversee a lot of contractors. A lot of like the road work on like 405 is some of our projects that I'm on. So I oversee all of that soil excavation, and we field screen it to see if it's clean, and then we remove it, and then we sample the sidewalls of the excavation to make sure we got it all. I also do drilling, where we drill down to usually about 20 to 30 feet underground, and we classify the soil all the way down and assess for contamination. And then from there, devise a work plan that we also oversee. I do a lot of groundwater sampling as well in those contaminated sites, which is my favorite thing to do. I also do a lot of stormwater permitting. So industrial stormwater, we have to sample once every quarter for different parameters based on what they're doing at the site, and then write the reports and stuff like that. It's all pretty interesting. It's never the same, but it's fun.
My daily, day in the life is also very, very varied. It again, like Vamos is non-hierarchical, so it's kind of a weird structure to explain. But when we have like a lot of youth programming, everybody does programming, and so everybody is both has admin tasks and programming tasks. And I would say like right now in the spring, about 2 days a week, I have youth programming, and so I'm like having lots of fun, like picking up, like communicating with families, picking up kids, and taking them out to like go mountain biking or like go to the YMCA and swim or like take them to Vital. And that's always really refreshing and really, it's always new. Like kids always got some going on. And I love it for that. And I never saw myself working with kids before. I had never worked with kids before. But again, like alternatives, like see yourself doing different things. And yeah, some of the admin tasks are really varied as well. I think that's something that I really appreciate about our leadership structure is that we each kind of get to pick and like plug in where it's needed, and like oftentimes if there's like work that's specifically funded, then that it takes priority. And like, for example, the whole last academic year, I guess, I like about 3 days of my week were spent delivering a grant from the Department of Commerce, and that was like really fun, but took a lot of time. And now I've been kind of like more freed up to do other things that are kind of more fun and new. We're in the middle of strategic planning for our organization, and so the way that we kind of like get things done is we form little work groups or committees depending on if it's something that needs to happen long term or something that's just like temporary. And so I literally meet like 3 hours a week just to talk about our mission, vision, and values, and like do this like year-long strategic planning process. That's something that I've never done, but again, like I'm getting new experience on doing that. And so yeah, it's very varied. A lot of times it is just like spending time scheduling meetings and then having those meetings to be aligned and then like follow up on that and like do that all over again. But it's fun. Yeah. I like get to talk to different partners, and oftentimes my like lane is community and youth engagement. And so, for example, the police department has been interested in how they can be more culturally responsive in these times. And so a lot of institutions and like partners recognize that Vamos has this like really like strong relationship of trust built with the community. And so they'll like reach out to do things like this. And oftentimes I'll just like meet with them and be like, okay, like what are you interested in doing? Like this is what we've done in the past. This is sort of the framework that we use. If you want to like consult with us, this is how much it costs. And so it can be oftentimes like, yeah, very, very different days, day to day, but have this kind of like outdoor educator staple that just kind of happens throughout the weeks. So yeah, thanks for giving the opportunity to talk about that.
All right, do we have another question from the audience? Yes, right here.
They kind of change spots. Is there ever like a kind of like struggle with like that kind of like different levels of consistency that you're like on?
Okay, the question was, it sounds like your day-to-day experience changes a lot. Do you ever struggle with that?
I really love that my job has variety and that I get to be doing different things. And my job is pretty self-scheduled for the most part. We have set events that I have to lead, but for the most part, I can decide what I want to do with my time. The biggest struggle for me is having an office day where I've gotten all my tasks done and I don't really know what to do. Especially working a full-time job where I have to meet the 40-hour threshold. Sometimes I feel like I don't have something that is urgent enough to meet those 40 hours. And so I feel like sometimes I'm grabbing for miscellaneous tasks that don't feel like a good use of my time. I would rather be super busy.
I struggle with it. Not being in the office at all in a week happens probably once a month. And, you have all this paperwork that you need to upload, and then you have to usually work over 40 hours a week. And it can be really tiring and stressful. And it's just really important to stay organized, keep all of your thoughts together, and just like communicate with your boss when you're done. Like, I need to go to the office. I need like some time to like be inside and like drink water and like sit down and talk to my coworkers as well. Sometimes I miss them and it's hard, but
Um, yes and no. I think, yeah, maybe I'm just someone that goes with the flow a lot. So works for me to have these very varied days and have like very different tasks that I have to be jumping around, and doing. But honestly, yeah, sometimes it is kind of hard to, have that much dynamic change. I will say something about nonprofit work. It is a lot of that, and it's also very dependent on funding. And so there is a component of like, okay, like if I don't make something happen, I'm not gonna be able to justify the organization paying me, to work. And so I think that's kind of what made me think of, the question made me think of that, of like that sense of kind of survival. I've been in that position a couple times, and but yeah, I maybe that just works for me. I kind of like click into this, just like make something happen like at any cost. Um, but yeah, that's what I got.
Just a slightly more generic answer. I think it's really important as you're interviewing for jobs to get comfortable asking them what a day-to-day looks like and get comfortable measuring that against your expectations and whether that's aligned for you. You can't always negotiate salary and you can't always negotiate benefits. You can negotiate a lot of other things, including human well-being things. You can negotiate working from home. You can negotiate having a specifically stable days in the office. Like there are a lot of things that you can negotiate when you're first getting a job that can really support alignment between the expectations of a day-to-day and what you want to see in your day-to-day.
Right. We are almost out of time, but I promised these folks that I'd give them each a minute for whatever, a plug, a piece of advice, no pressure. Anyone want to go first? I thought so.
Well, yeah, just plugging our volunteer opportunities. I don't know if there's anybody interested in like being an outdoor educator at all, but like just if there's something that you like doing, like mountain biking or climbing or whatnot. It also something good to put on your resume is those volunteer hours. And so yeah, go to our website. And right now we are full with like spring programs. So there's a lot of opportunities. There's also like family programming where we like have parents come. And anyways, there's a lot of opportunities. So quick plug to that. And apart from that, I don't know, just like drink water and like, give a compliment to random people, say hi to someone on the street. I don't know. Yeah.
yes, drink water. What I've learned the most is that it's really important to make connections at work. You never know what'll help you later. So don't burn any bridges or try not to if it's not warranted. Yeah, little plug. We might be looking for field staff with no experience somewhat soon. So you can email me if you would like. But no guarantees.
Great organizational plugs. My greatest advice especially if you're at the phase of graduating and moving towards your being in your career is to talk to a lot of people. Email people who have jobs that you think are interesting and ask them if you can have coffee for 20 minutes. We're all very used to like calling people. Talk to people you think are interesting. Ask them what they wish they knew at the point that you're at. get comfortable asking other people for feedback, get comfortable giving other people feedback. Like the best possible thing that you can do to enrich the likelihood that you find an enriching job, or you stay in a job for a long term, or you find whatever fill in the blank like the value that you're looking for is. Maybe that's money, maybe that's fulfillment, maybe that's community impact. Hopefully it's all three, right? Like the best thing you can do in finding that is talking to a lot of people. People want to support you. People want to help you. You have no idea what connection might take you somewhere really interesting or important in the future. Like people are wonderful. The best thing we can do is be human and connect with other humans. Like that's the top line important part of being who we are, careers aside.
I want to circle back to that patchwork example. I think that my biggest advice is get experience. Education is super important. Getting your degree is super important. Experience is also super important, and it sets you apart. And if you want to get some experience, maybe some volunteer experience, NC does community work parties. We remove invasive species. We plant native species to restore salmon habitat every Saturday. We also have events every other Wednesday. That's called Stream Team. That's my little pet project. Come out, plant some plants, remove some invasive species, make those connections, because there's some really cool people that go to our work parties. We also offer internships, and they are great for students. It's usually only on Saturdays. So check out our internship program as well.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Join me in thanking Julian, Martine, Kenna, and Avery. Thank you all.